Hi, Anna. Great post for this week. I really had to agree with one point that you mentioned when you talked about Islam and its the spread through conquest and why they don't really respond to change so well because change has always come from pretty much a force because of British and French and France con- conquering the countries in the Middle East, and the Middle East countries having to fight back for their independence, and they were colonized by the British and all of that. So I think, like you mentioned, they do resent and sometimes do not respond well to change because of the issues, like you mentioned, with being conquered. And this just made me think of Western influence. How many Arab countries are against Western influence and completely resent the West because of maybe the policies of the West, like you mentioned. The government, the Middle East politics and government are centralized and pretty much autocratic governments with only one person in power, one person in rule, and that person is in power for as long as they want to be in power. And it's been this way for, with emperors, like you mentioned, and throughout history. So maybe they don't want to change these policies because of history, and history is a factor as well as this idea of being conquered. They don't want anybody to have a say in any aspects of their politics, and they resent all aspects of outside influences, which may be, like I said, a main reason why they are completely against Western influence and why the politics in the country are the way they are with this centralized government and one person ruling for so long. Sorry about the cat in the background. And then some countries that completely do not like the West, and especially the United States, are Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and probably even Yemen. So these countries are very resentful and resent the politics that we have. So I think this is why they have the politics that they do, because one, it's completely opposite of the country that they do not like and do not want anything to have anything to do with. But like I said, I also think you made a very good point of this idea that they like their centralized government, and therefore their politics are based on this centralized government. They don't want anything to do with Western ideas, and the fact that they were conquered for so long, and due to this conquering, they want things, politics, to be one centralized government to not allow influence and not allow any more conquering and that sort. So it's almost as if they keep their politics so centralized into one person that change cannot be brought about, and it's more difficult for change to be brought about. And that's what I think the Middle East politics is all about, is this lack of change. And history has made politics in the country the way they are for so long because leaders and some individuals, like the wealthy elite that you mentioned, do not want this idea of change and are completely against change. So, understanding what I'm taking away this semester in with this idea of Middle East politics is this lack of change, this lack of wanting something new, continuing to do the way to have centralized and autocratic governments like they've had for several decades and decades, and to have one person rule for several decades, because one, they don't want this changed. Don't want to feel as if the Western ideas are influencing their country because of the conquering that had gone on for so long, and some of these countries just gained independence within the last several decades. So they don't want to go back to somebody controlling their government and controlling the way they do and wanting things their way. So I think this is the whole idea of Middle East politics, like I've been continuously saying, is no change, no Western influence, moving away from this idea of conquering and making their own history of their own autocratic governments. So I hope all that makes sense. I know it was a lot, but your post really had me going, really had me thinking, and I enjoyed having class with you this semester, and I wish you the best in the future. Thanks.